Hey there. Welcome to Top of Mind. Real talk for today's woman. With Anna and Karen.
Hang on, I have record on this computer. So it
All
looks
right.
like I'm recording on this one. So anyway,
Okay.
one of the things that I wanted to talk about was I found a statistic, and I don't know if you've heard about this. Actually, it wasn't a statistic. I heard a woman tell me about this, that by 2027, she said that a lot of the wealth in the world in North America, so Canada and the States, is going from men to women. That 43%, I think it was, of women would hold the wealth. And I thought, that sounds 2027. Are you kidding me? Like, that's only a couple years away. I found that so fascinating. I went and looked it up. And sure
Okay.
as heck, there's a bunch of studies out there that actually talk about this. And what it is there's a few things that culminate in that. So it's the boomers.
Okay.
Men die sooner than women, so they're
Mhm.
passing it to their female counterparts.
Okay.
Women are becoming entrepreneurs and have been in the workforce, which they hadn't been for centuries before that. So finally, we're learning how to accumulate wealth, this type of stuff.
Mhm.
So anyway, I live in a world where I spend a lot of time networking with women superpowers, is the only way to put it, you know. And so because of that, I do see the wealth around. I'm the poor cousin, and amongst all these superpowers, it's really great to have these examples. 10 or 15 years ago, they weren't around. I don't know if you found that, Annie.
Right. No, I agree. And I think, honestly, what I find most interesting is that you're saying that some of that wealth is boomers. That totally makes sense and resonates with me
Sorry.
because you figure
So,
2027
some of the wealth,
that
what?
is boomers
Yeah.
is the passage, and that makes a lot of sense to me because 2027 is 3 years away. Now, you and I are in this space, and I do believe the lion's share of it is women, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, sure, you have like your Tony Robbins and your uh, gosh, some of the other guys, Joe, Deepest, what's his name? Joe.
Joe,
Well, Rogan's
Jim
one.
Rohn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do see that, but I also see women emerging
Yeah.
in this space. And I probably have seen that more over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
So, and as you said, I think we talked about a little bit in our last talk is how we're struggling to figure out how to make ends meet. So I think what we're finding is more and more moms figured out those side hustles.
Yes.
So in addition to that full-time income, how can they supplement? And maybe it's through MLMs or different levels of we'll call them side hustles.
Right.
So for instance, as you know, I'm full-time in this space. You are working full-time, right? And
Yep.
building your side hustle.
Yep.
So we kind of we have a foot in each camp,
Yes. Yes.
which is actually kind of interesting.
Yes. And then I also, in some of my masterminds and things like that, groups that I'm part of, there's women who, like you talked about, there's two things that I've noticed in networking. A lot of women are very young and in that space, which I was like, wow, like to sit there and think to go out on your own, like that would terrify me when I was younger. I needed to know where my where my check was coming from, and that truly an employee. I never grew up with entrepreneurs or that. And then somebody said, young people, there's not as much opportunity for employment out there that there was for us. They struggle more. So in fact, they have to create a space, and they become an entrepreneur out of the fact that there's nothing for them. And I don't know if that's true in the States, but up in Canada, they get all these degrees and then there's no place for them to go and get the job.
Well, I agree that's part of it, but I also believe a big part of it is social media. It's so much easier
Yeah.
on this generation than it was on our generation. Nothing like this existed.
No,
I mean,
we used to have to go knock on doors. There used to be
yes,
the traveling salesman when we were growing up, the vacuum sales guy and the encyclopedia. And nowadays it's like you can sell anything. You're right,
right.
online. And
Yeah,
the other
so that's easier, I think.
and the other group that we haven't covered is the woman that's at home with the kids.
Yes.
It's like there's that idea of full time, and doing a side hustle. But a lot of women I find in a family, whether they're single or in a family, childcare is too expensive. So instead they stay home and they supplement. And a lot is the MLM world is what I see. I mean, there's been a lot of great women put their stuff out there, and what was her name? Jessie Lee, who passed away last year. She was a big dominating force in there, teaching women how to do it, giving back, stuff like that. And the idea is that they can do that from home while they're still looking after their children, in between, stuff like that. So in fact, the business and being an entrepreneur or having the side gig or anything like that. Another friend of mine, she works in the evenings from 7 o'clock on because her kids, and it's really funny because I'm getting into, my lounge wear as I'm getting on for the mastermind, the group, whatever, at 8 o'clock, and there she is with a suit on. And I'm like, what are you doing with a suit? A jacket. She says, I'm working. I have to think that way, because that's when her kids are in bed and she stops looking after them. So it's so the idea of the wealth, women have, like you said, many more ways, I think, to make money than we did before. Many more options and to do better. I mean, minimum wage is horrible. It's not even a working wage anymore. You're the employed poverty, which is sad.
It's true. I mean, you could barely, I think here in the States, minimum wage, you could barely, it's like not even the cost of living, really.
Yeah.
And everything's so high right now anyway, with rents and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you can't survive on minimum wage. So almost by default, this generation, the younger generations coming up, learning to build their own dreams versus someone else, working for someone else and building their dream, their employer's dream. You're a little different though, because you're in a first responder role. So I don't really see that you're building a dream, if that makes sense.
No, I'm too busy putting the fires out.
But you know what I mean? You're not building someone else's dream. You are providing a necessary service. It's almost like, doctors or nurses and, police, firefighters. That's a different kind of service role versus working for a corporation or an employer where you are building their vision versus living your own.
Yes. Or an entrepreneur,
Yes.
who has an idea of where they want their company to go.
Right.
So small business owner. So
yeah. But I find that, when you first told me about that, I was fascinated by it. The statistic that the wealth is going to transfer, and I'm glad for it. But I think we're seeing it. We're seeing the building blocks of that taking place today.
And an interesting thing too is I find that one of the women, the women who actually talked about it was her name's Whitney. She's with Sovereign Wealth, and she the founder of it, and she gives back every month by providing workshops for women to teach us how to manage money and things like that. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that when women are given it, we hang on, sometimes a little bit too tight. There's this fear we're going to lose it, or there's not going to be enough. And that comes from our other generation, our parents' generation. They lived through the Depression, they lived through, hard times, world wars. And, back then it was like there wasn't enough. And so they're hanging on real tight. And as we know, they're I study the law of attraction, stuff like that, the manifesting, blah blah blah. So it's like the tighter you hang on, the more you're it's stifling. It doesn't flow, it doesn't go anywhere, nothing happens with it. And in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about you will lose the fear of financial insecurity. It's not that you get money, you just lose the fear.
Now, how does that come to AA? Just out of curiosity, how does that tie together?
Sorry, with AA?
Yeah, like the money, where does that come from? Is it?
Well, AA is, there's a whole, of course, guys, I'm sorry, I have no control over the noise that's here at the cottage, so the truck just stopped. Oh, for God's sake.
Oh, I love it.
So, can you hear it very much, Annie?
Yeah, I can hear fine.
Okay. Maybe in the recording I can take this out. I don't know. We're going to see how good my skills are. But anyway, so no, well, AA is all about they call it a design for living. It's a program for living. And so it's, once you put down the alcohol, that's only one part of it. We have to learn how to manage our feelings, our emotions, how to play nice with other people, how not to be self-centered, how to manage our money. So there are these kind of promises that they talk about if you work the program. And a lot of us had problems with finances, stole the coffers. We may have, padded the company expense, taken a little bit more than we should have, stuff like this. And
Mhm.
it's one of the things they teach you is self-autonomy. You can't have any respect and not, any self-respect if you're not self-supporting. So there's a whole teaching about spirituality, money, being self-supporting, having fear of financial insecurity. So it's a program that deals with, spirit, emotion, physical. Not so much physical, but the spirit and emotional. So that's a part of living, growing up, being responsible.
Interesting. Huh. Well, back when I was like in my 20s and I started my self-care, my I guess development of just self-knowledge and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I looked at was basically going to Al-Anon because, I grew up in an alcoholic household that had nothing to do with my parents. It was my older siblings. Um, and it was quite, disastrous, tumultuous, like all kinds of things. So I kind of looked into more of the Al-Anon side of things than I did the AA side of things. But yeah, that makes sense that it's kind of all, because you do, because sometimes I think we use things to distract or to numb, and then we have to figure out when that numbing agent goes away, what does life look like? And yeah, huh?
All right, the truck's moving on. Yay.
Woohoo!
Okay. So, so anyway, the conclusion is that women, get ready. It's our time.
Hmm.
Wealth is coming to us. It's there for us. It's changing everything out there. We're starting to see a lot more women business become successful, have their businesses, become CEOs, all sorts of stuff. So, take heart that we can do it and it's changing the world. And I'm Karen. I'm a confidence and mindset coach. And
I'm Anna, and I'm a self-care midlife doula mentor. I'm still trying to figure out the name of it, but we're here to support you. This is kind of, we're happy. This is actually one of our kickoff programs, and we're so happy to see this transfer of wealth. And we're here to support you in how it looks for you and to help you grow and step into your dream.
cool. And if there's any subjects you want to talk about, because we're covering anything under the sun that comes to our mind, just throw it in the questions below. We'll cover it in one of these ones. Okay. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.